Hi, everybody. We are so excited to hang out this Wednesday. Go ahead and grab what you need to get comfortable, and we'll see you back here in about 30 seconds. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to hang out with my colleague, Rachel. Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, Carly. How are you?
Good. And also joining us tonight is our colleague, Michele. Hey, Michele.
Hi, guys. Sorry I was a minute late.
No, you're perfect. This is great. We were just kind of catching up before we went live. Michele, how are you? How's life? How are things?
Good. I just got off of a 2.5 hour live Zoom with my new cohort of methods and materials students. 64 teachers joined me live on the Zoom for our first night for the kickoff. So that ended at 7 exactly. And so then I was like, I gotta get in here. But things are going good. I'm so excited for the new term, and it always feels so great to see so many teachers that just want to improve the lives of their multilingual students and have so many good questions and thoughts about language acquisition and the classroom. So it's good. Lovely.
That's fantastic. And how lucky are those educators to get to learn from you? Truly, that's like amazing. They can't get any better than that. And Rachel, how is life for you?
Oh, I mean, life's chugging along. It's, I think September was a little quiet as people are getting settled into the school year. And now that holy cow, we're headed into October. Like, that was crazy to say. But it's just like ramping up. And it's been great to see educators feeling like there's a little bit of like a spark. Like, all right, let's get this going. Help me out. What do we need?
Yes. I love that. And I agree. I think there's like a really nice buzz and energy in the field. And, as we kind of settle into the school year, we're getting to know our students, we're getting to know our colleagues and all of those things. I feel like everyone's kind of they're finding their groove, right? And there's a lot of passion and energy and inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, we wanted to remind everybody that the Multilingual Illinois Conference will be back this year. It's from December 10th through 13th, and we'll be at a new location, which is like so exciting, in Tinley Park. So we're really looking forward to that. And do you both remember last year we had to like cut off registration much earlier than we thought because it like maxed out so quick?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are watching this, friends, get registered like soon so you don't get cut off, because that would be the worst. We want you there. We want you there. Bring a friend, all the good stuff. And we also have our ongoing family and BPAC sessions. And all of that information can be found on our website, and of course also on our social media. But those are absolutely fantastic. Those are free. I know a lot of BPACs in Illinois use this as like a watch party opportunity. So that's a really cool thing to do. And you've got Adelicia up on the screen and everyone's there in one room. And it's just a really cool thing. So all that information, including registration links, are found on our website that is scrolling. But tonight I'm so excited because we keep having, I think, a lot of conversations about supporting newcomers. And so all of September, we've been having our sessions on Wind Down Wednesday focus on supporting newcomers. So tonight I'm excited because with Rachel and Michele, we're going to be talking about effective and ineffective visuals for our newcomer students. So, I mean, we could kind of take this 86 ways and run with it. But I guess maybe we'll start with like, when you hear that topic, does anything jump out to you right away in terms of like effective versus ineffective?
when I hear like effective versus ineffective, my mind first goes to whatever we're going to be using. The kids still need to know what it is. It's going to be ineffective if we've never had any experience to it.
Yes.
Oh, so like, I'm going to, so like if somebody showed me visuals of like machine equipment used for auto mechanic repair, the visual is not really going to help me understand much because I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Unless we were using it to do some predicting and figuring out what that might be. But if we're just plopping a visual down to be like, hey, we're talking about machine repair, everybody should know this. And you, Michele, I don't know what that is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think of effective being like a one-to-one correspondence or just the visual that solidifies the most critical concept or understanding. And then to me, the thing that popped out with ineffective is a visual that I actually see a lot of out there in the field, which is like on a graphic organizer, there's maybe like a hamburger and they're supposed to write their like beginning, middle, and end or something, like all the details in the middle of the sandwich. But I often have a lot of students get confused because they think the topic of the writing is supposed to be about food or fast food or burgers. And the same with like the choo-choo train sequencing. You know, they're like, why are we writing about trains? I think especially students at the lowest proficiency levels, they're just learning everyday words. If we use too much of an analogy with our visuals, it might not land right away.
Oh, Michele, it's so funny you bring that up because I was working with a dual language class last spring around that graphic organizer concept. I said, I recognize, you know, in my own teaching practice, I fell into the, well, I want to make it kind of cute and match whatever the story is. So we read about hamburgers. Let's fill, I can picture one in my head that I used because the story was about ice cream cones and the cone sat and it was beginning, middle, end for each 3 scoops. And, you know, you step back and reflect that, like, yes, students are going to get confused as to what they're supposed to write. Or do we start at the beginning? Because actually I'd put the bottom scoop on first, but I can't put the top scoop on, right? Like, so there's that logistics. And we got talking about it from a dual language perspective, because as we're helping kids navigate work across languages and doing things in Spanish and doing things in English, it can get really confusing if we're not using similar structures and visuals in that same point. So if I'm using the hamburger in one and the ice cream in the other, even though I'm talking about the same concepts across languages, it can be a really big level of confusion for students.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we want to also, like, those visuals that we're using in that sense of graphic organizers, we really eventually want those to be like unhooked from the page itself, and like that the structures just live in the students' minds, right? That's the dream. And so if we use too many cutesy images across all of that, then like, I don't want students getting a piece of scratch paper and trying to like redraw an ice cream cone when they just needed like 2 lines down the middle so they could write the beginning, the middle, and the end separate or something like that. I don't know. So I like to think about, like you said, kind of, I like a good cutesy thing, but you know, does it make it make sense, especially for students that will need to transfer those skills that we want them to be gleaning from the visual itself.
Yes. So I'm so glad you both brought this up, because as you were saying the word cutesy, like, I love stuff that's cute. I really do. Like, my eye is just very naturally drawn to something with a cute aesthetic. And like, you know me, Michele and I, we've talked about this. Like, I'm a laminator girly pop. Like, I will laminate all of it. And Michelle's like, who's got time for that? We're not doing that. Right. But like, all of our teacher styles are a little bit different. But like, we live in a teachers pay teachers world, right? Where everything is like the cute clip art, and it like, again, it like calls to us, it sucks us in, but sometimes it's the graphics themselves and the visuals themselves are really not helpful. And you guys know I've said this a lot, like I get real mad at publishing companies because they're like, oh, if you want to make your content more, accessible to newcomer students, just add a visual. It's not that simple. Like, it's not just us going online and slapping a graphic on something. It has to be meaningful to our students. And I will say, for a long time, I went to Google Images, and that was kind of my go-to. And over the years, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like this is garbage. Oh my gosh, this is garbage. And then as the years have kind of shifted, I have moved away from Google Images, and I've kind of leaned on some different resources to find better graphics that, maybe will be a little more printer friendly when I'm trying to make tools for kids and stuff like that.
I agree with the printer friendly. I worked at a school where the color printer was like locked down.
Yes.
And it like you required like, I feel like you had to like fill out a page form submission to like get something printed in color. So whatever images we could find needed to work in black and white. Yes. So we have, you kind of have to play around with that a little bit too, to make sure that it's printer friendly.
Yep. Absolutely.
I say an effective visual is one that's there in the moment that it's needed, in the moment where there's confusion. So honestly, I'm not the best artist, but just having a dry erase board or a white copy paper on a clipboard and some crayons, markers, or a pencil on hand can sometimes be the most effective visual, because you're ready to quickly sketch something in the moment it's needed, or ask a student, show me.
Yes.
In the moment that it's needed. Of course, now easy also to pull things up on your phone quickly. A visual, like in the moment when it's needed.
Yes, absolutely. I know one of my kind of current go-to resources, I love the Noun Project, and I love flaticon.com. For a long time, I was calling it Flaticon. And then somebody was like, Carly, it's icon. I was like, oh. But those two have just been like my go-tos, because they're great for like kind of the survival vocabulary, like notebook, chair, pencil, highlighter, all those types of words. But it also has a lot of really good stuff, both of those sites, for like content specific vocabulary too. So it's not just helpful for newcomer students, it's good for everybody across proficiency levels.
And now that you say that too, I think Michele and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago or something. I was showing her some different flashcard options, and I really like things that I can find that are printable without words. Sometimes, oftentimes you'll find like a picture of a chair and it says chair, or those are sometimes the purchasable items that we might find. I sometimes like those to not have the word there, because I want to explore the vocabulary that students might bring to the table, whether it's in their home language, whether it's in English, and we can build on that together. But sometimes giving them the word pigeonholes us into only that word.
Yes.
That's a good point. So what was that website? You did just tell me. I think I wrote it down last week.
I believe it was, let me double check. ESLflashcards.com.
Yeah. I had never seen it before.
And there's a lot of variety of some content specific things. There's just like there's verbs and nouns and school based, and they give you a few different options for printing. And that's what I like, is I like to use them across languages too, with classrooms I work who do Spanish work too. And I can print them with no words. And that gives us a place to really, really explore students' knowledge base from I like to kind of call it like a language agnostic place.
I mean, I feel like lately you can't go wrong inside Canva for any icons, visuals, photos that you might want, only because of so many integrations with so many other platforms. I just recently found out, actually earlier this week, and then I interrupted a meeting to tell Carly. Like the topic was completely not this, and I was like, sorry everyone, I have to tell Carly something right now.
That's right.
Yeah, it's because I've used Pixabay, which is like a good old classic photo finder. It's free photos and things. I've used it for a really long time, but now it has a Canva integration. So if you search in Pixabay for a photo, I searched camouflaged animals. And I mean, the scroll of photos that were gorgeous was unbelievable. But now there's an integration where if you click on the photo, you can click like send to an editable Canva file. And then it opens in an editable Canva page with its own link. So students could edit on that. You could edit live on that. It's like a ready to go activity if you hack the link and make it like a copy link. And then you can add labels, all kinds of things. So I don't know. I've been excited about that because I like using it with picture word inductive model. And then you find the photo, you're ready to go if you just click the Canva button. It's like, what?
That is really cool. As soon as you said that the other day, Michele, in that meeting, I was like, I need to go and like spend, like I feel like I just need, there's certain things where like you just keep growing your list of like, I gotta check this out. I gotta check this out. I'm like, I need to set a timer at the end of this week for like 15 minutes and just start clicking through and playing for a little bit just to see all the possibilities. Because as you were saying that, I was like, oh, like that is so cool.
Well, Canva has some great built-in AI photo tools as well. I don't know which ones are in like the subscribe, like if you hit a paywall for certain ones, I'm sure you do, or maybe you need the professional subscription. I'm sure you hit a paywall for some of it, but I don't even know how to say it. It's like Dolly. This is not going to age well. This Facebook Live is not going to age well. Like, I'm just saying that right now, everybody. In like 1 month, it's going to be timed out. It already is timed out before we've even said what we're saying. But anyway, I use that, and then you can copy paste from like students' sentences, what they dreamt up, like the white monster with purple spots. You can type it in there using the DALL-E extension or integration. Again, aging myself. And then it'll pop you 4 choices of AI generated images. Google's Gemini AI tool has also been a fast growing favorite of mine for the ability for it to like spit out photos of whatever you're wishing for.
So Gemini has an image generator.
Yeah. You can just say, create a photo of blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Or create a drawing of, or create a clip art image of, or and it makes different,
See, I need to play with that. And Michele, who's joining us today, she says she's loving Gemini. That's one I need to play around with a little bit more. I'm adding that one to my list.
If I tell you all the ways I've been using that one, I'll go off topic, off script.
That's all right.
We'll have to make another live just about that AI tool.
An AI tool.
Or any tools.
We might need to get a few like experienced teachers in here with us to tell us how they're using it. Like,
so we don't embarrass ourselves.
I love it.
As we're talking, it got me thinking, and Michele, I'm thinking about the infographic you've made around TPR and instructional versus like educational. And I got thinking about that from the like image side of things. I'm significantly better at like the instructional side of things. Like I can find you visuals to explain all the processes and the ins and outs and the directions you need. But when it comes to like the actual thing, I got to think hard. I got to really step back and go, what's my purpose here? What do I want kids to take away from this? Am I just throwing visuals out because I know it's good practice? Because I do the same thing with TPR. I'm terrible at coming up with like motions for big concepts. But I can be like, first write your name and then cut it out.
I guess, another important point when you're like, I was just hearing you talk about that. I was thinking to myself, have I ever done like poor TPR with the visuals and the auditory for things like, did they really need to know that? I remember early in my teaching career, I was working with fourth graders and they were learning about the rock cycle. And so I got the actual rock, so that is good. Then I took photos of the rocks. So I had the photos and the rocks themselves. And then I like made TPR so we could learn all the rock types. And I'm not just talking sedimentary, metamorphic, igneous, the 3. I'm talking milky quartz, like all of them. I was like, milky quartz, like I don't know why it's a regal rock. What am I doing? And the kids learned them all. But I have laughed at myself in retrospect so many times thinking about how they were like doing different moves and touching those visuals to learn these different rock types. And like, why are they just, as they're on their walk with their family tonight, they're like, hey, look, I don't know, like sandstone, like why was I spending time on that? And I realized it was because the test asked them to like match the rocks to the names of the rocks. And sometimes we have to step back and think for all students, I'm going to throw that out for all students, but definitely for our multilingual students, like we can't be wasting time on these types of things when there's so much more universal academic language that is needed,
You like literally just ignited a memory in my head too we had this in I was teaching first grade at the time, and it was a really big district movement that kids were going to learn these robust vocabulary words that were in our curriculum materials, and there were 6 a week. And we had to draw a picture. I had to find a visual. And I will never forget this is a word I learned in Spanish because I was teaching Spanish language arts. Tartamudear, which means like to stutter. That was our robust vocabulary word. And at the end of the day, now you got me thinking, like, why did I need to spend that time teaching first graders that word? Because it might have came up in a story for a brief moment that we were reading. But there's so many other larger vocabulary words that navigate everyday life that they didn't know. And we get, I think, sucked into these, pieces by sometimes our publishers who create these curricular materials, pull us into those. And we fall victim to like, they have to know this, they have to know sandstone.
We're going to know it now too. But but I think the way we lose sight is because we have that mentality that vocabulary is the way to fluency, and it's only one dimension of the language acquisition pieces that are part of our WIDA framework.
And I think it's important too, like as we think about like all these things, like it's got to be the balance, because we do want to expose everybody to rich vocabulary, but it's like, what do I need you to leave here knowing? Like, we're like, if my time with you is very precious and very limited, or maybe I'm the classroom teacher, like whatever it might be, I might look at, some of those word lists and say, okay, which ones are really I need to prioritize so that you can leverage them like confidently and comfortably across different content areas. And then which ones are the ones that I'm going to expose you to for content specific vocabulary. But like, it's we want to provide access to all of these things, but we do need to be strategic because, especially with newcomer students, there's just so much. There's so much.
We have to, I've been using this term a little bit. I'm gonna say I made it up. I don't know where I got it from, but it's been in my my repertoire lately of our instructional energy. And we have to really think about like where we're putting our instructional energy with our students. And is it towards teaching this really high level, really content specific vocabulary? Or is it, right, like you said, Carly, like being able to leverage vocabulary across content areas, across a student's entire day, right? And giving them like, what's useful. And this conversation came up in a dual language classroom about breaking the target language and when translanguaging is appropriate. And I said, at the end of the day, you have to think about like, where are you putting your instructional energy? Is it that big of a deal that you turn and told a student to like, I just said, take out your pencil, let's get it done. Like, that's not where I need to put in my energy right now. I need to put that into the higher instructional tasks.
Yes. I love that a lot. And I think I might add that to my repertoire, Rachel, with credit to you. I really do like that. But and it makes me think too about like, how many times have folks said like, oh, newcomers, oh, if you have a newcomer student, it means all this extra work for you, all this extra prep for you. And I'm like, but again, like, how do we maximize time and make it super effective with students? Because if I am prepping like a vocabulary tool for students, I don't need to be the one prepping all of it in isolation away from my kids. It's actually, I think, more meaningful if we build it, if we co-construct it with our students, with the newcomers, with the higher proficiency kids, with everybody, and say, let's look at this, like based on what we know about this word, what is a really good visual that represents this and why? And let's talk about, and let's all bring a few options. Which visual do you think really captures this word's essence, right? And having the kids co-construct that, that's super valuable. And it saves us on some of that background prep time.
So right? Good. And not only that, but like really lifts up those who have talents in the artistic realm, that like now all of a sudden, like during your math class or science class or whatever, like your talent in other content areas was kind of lifted up, right, in the fine arts. So that's great. I actually was just thinking, I visited a classroom a while ago in a middle school where the teacher had pulled out an excerpt from a pretty lengthy chapter in a novel that they were reading. And she told everyone, we're only going to read this excerpt of this chapter because this tells us everything we need to know about this character. So they were already like so compelled. Wow, just that one part tells us everything we need to know. And then she asked the students to break it up into very small chunks and sketch what they envisioned. And at each different table, they came up with a sketch. And then they put it in the sequence of the paragraph and looked at each sketch while she read it aloud. And I thought, how brilliant to land with all these visual representations of that main character because of carefully selected text and student-generated visuals.
It's so meaningful for your students to also like be able to approach that and only see like the paragraph or the one line that they were working on. That feels attainable for them. Yeah. If you say, hey, we're going to read this chapter today, so many kids shut down because it's the anxiety level rises. It's too much. It's too hard. I can't do it.
You know what I thought was the most upsetting is that she apologized to me at the end of the lesson, which I thought was brilliant. She's like, I'm sorry, I gave them a lot of drawing time today. And I think that's so common that we think that wasn't rigorous. And the way she did it was incredibly rigorous and meaningful to the students. No apologies needed.
Yes. I love that.
I was so upset by that apology.
Well, and that's interesting too, because if she's feeling some type of guilt or shame, that came from somewhere, right? And I think it's sometimes sometimes it's pressure we put on ourselves, but sometimes it's like we were told or we were taught either explicitly or implicitly, like that this is wrong or incorrect, right? Or not what we should be doing. It sounds like those kids were all engaged.
I can get it. Like when I go into a class of ESL students, I shouldn't see them coloring. I can hear that being said before, right? And we can get why it would be said. And in some context, that isn't what we should see. So but in this case, student generated drawing is never a waste of time.
Never a waste of time. That's right. That's right. And I'll also share, and this will be maybe my final thought, that not everything needs a visual. Like not everything needs a visual, because we can make meaning in lots of different ways. And like some words and phrases don't really lend themselves very easily or nicely in a visual format. So we don't, not everything needs a visual. Some things we could just like, let's keep going. And then like, let's again, focus our energy very strategically. Like you were saying, Rachel.
Yeah. Good point. Important point.
Oh, all right. Well, you guys, it's already 7:32. Holy cow. But thank you both so much for hanging out with me tonight. And for those of you who have been joining us this evening, we thank you so much. Before you go, make sure you visit our website so that you get all the added information for the Multilingual Illinois Conference in Tinley Park in December. Send it to whoever you need to send it to. Form your team now. Get registered soon. And Michele and Rachel, thank you both so much for hanging out tonight. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone.